This video is focused towards the history of India and China's claims at the northern part of Ladakh that's called Aksai Chin, a 37,244 square kilometer land that's almost Bhutan, Kerala, Manipur, Nagaland put together. Actually, they are using historic technique of a Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu, The Art of War. It's a book on Audible. I have given the link in the description. You should really read it. But my point is, they use Sun Tzu's 5 principles of art of war with India, and I'll explain how in rest of the video. It was the time of 1940s. Republic of India and Islamic Republic of Pakistan just got their independence from British rule in 1947. People's Republic of China was not that far either. They were formed in 1949. India was one of the first countries to give them a diplomatic recognition on the international platform. What PRC did? They announced their army will occupy Tibet and Xinjiang. The first thing they did after occupying Tibet was to send the troops at the Aksai Chin border. India was naive. They thought that we would defend on the Pakistan side of the Kashmir and China is our friend. Reaching Aksai Chin was difficult for Indian troops. So Chinese government ran a parallel narrative by saying that they express gratitude to India's attempt to stabilize the Indo-Chinese border. Nehru wanted no ambiguity. So he gave a statement in our parliament that McMahon line is our boundary and we stand along with that. We will not let anyone cross that boundary. China expressed no concern at these statements back then. McMahon line is a demarcation line between Tibet and northeast part of India, and it was signed in a 1914 Shimla Convention between British and Tibetan representatives. On the other side, it was Ardag-Johnson line that was the proposed boundary of Kashmir. It was formally accepted by British Indian government by Major General John Ardag in 1897, which was based on the survey conducted by William Johnson in 1865. This line was accepted by Postal Atlas of China, published by the government of China as the international border up until 1933. This line was eventually accepted by India as the international boundary as well. By 1951, as China extended its troops all the way to Aksai Chin, Indian government was concentrating its military efforts on stopping Ladakh from being taken by the Pakistani troops that did not establish itself in Aksai Chin. Why would they? Actually, till 1952, PRC gave an idea that there were no frontier issues between India and Chinese Tibet to be worried about. This is where they used the 5th principle of Sun Tzu. The 5th principle states that all warfare should be based on deception. When we are able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must appear inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe that we are far away. When we are away, we must make them believe that we are near. India supported China in September 1951 by not attending a San Francisco conference which was held regarding peace treaty in Japan. China was not invited, okay? India represented China in world matters as well due to its status as international outcast since they were communist, right? India also pushed the idea over the international platform to include PRC within UN. On the other hand, PLA defeated Tibet in the Battle of Chambo in 1950. Indian army asserted their control on Tawang just to be safe. After signing the Sino-Indian Treaty at Peking, Beijing, India and China concluded that they'll have a 5 principle of peaceful coexistence. Under this treaty, India acknowledged the sovereignty of Chinese over Tibet, and they made a mistake of signing a peace treaty which was including the 5 principles, which said mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference in internal affairs, equality in mutual benefits, and peaceful coexistence. So with these 5 principles, Chinese was able to keep India out of their internal matters related to Tibet and down the road Hong Kong. Well, actually they were able to outthink India. India could have helped Tibet as a buffer state between India and China. But PRC used the 4th principle of Sun Tzu, which says it's more important to outthink your enemy than to outfight them. On 1st July 1954, Nehru wrote a memo directing that maps of India were revised to show the definite boundaries on all frontiers. Okay, he just didn't want any of the ambiguities. So in 1956, in fact, Nehru expressed a concern to then Prime Minister of PRC, Zhou Enlai, that Chinese map was showing 120,000 square kilometers of Indian territory as Chinese. What the hell, right? Zhou deceived India by lying to it. He said that there were no errors in the map. In fact, he went to state that the maps needed revision from the previous year where such ideas were considered to be true and they meant little meaning. In November 1956, Zhao again repeated his assurance that China has no claims based on the maps. Let me give you one more example of their lie, alright? During 1950s, PRC built a 1200 kilometers road that was connecting Xinjiang and Western Tibet, for which 179 kilometers ran through the south of Ardak-Johnson line, which we talked about, that was in Aksai Chin region. And in India, the Indians did not learn about the existence of this road up until 1957, which was confirmed when the road was shown in Chinese map that was published in 1958, which means for more than a decade under Nehru's policy, India was supporting PRC to friend China on issues such as war in Korea, PRC's UN admission, peace treaty with Japan, transfer of Taiwan to PRC, Panchsheel Agreement of Indochina, supporting decolonization in Afro-Asian movement, whereas China was lying all this time. The Indian public was of course outraged when they got to know about 1958 and China was building the road, right, through Xinjiang and Tibet. This is where they implemented the third principle of Sun Tzu, which states, supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Hear me out. Let me know if I'm making sense, alright? On March 10th, 1959, the Tibetan uprising began because there was a revolution in Lhasa and PRC wanted to control them. Eventually, with a 17-point agreement with the Dalai Lama's successors in 1951, PRC was able to come under agreement that they will gobble up Tibet. An armed conflict between Tibetan guerrilla warfare and People's Liberation Army started in 1956. The guerrilla warfare later spread to other parts of Tibet and that lasted till 1962. They forced 14th Dalai Lama to take an exile in India. Dalai Lama was able to flee Tibet with the help of CIA's Special Activities Division and crossed into India on 30th March 1959 to reach Tejpur in Assam on 18th April 1959. Now PRC had a reason to blame Nehru's move to accommodate Dalai Lama, overshadowing all other actions which were performed by India before that. PRC leader Mao Zedong was humiliated by the reception that Dalai Lama obtained in India when he was fled there in 1959. Mao decided in April to openly criticize Nehru for his Tibetan policy. He said, and I quote, "Be sharp, don't fear to irritate Nehru. Don't fear to cause him trouble." Nehru miscalculated the situation, believing that China could not suppress the rebellion in Tibet and would have to beg India's help. Wow. That was a masterstroke. That was a combined implementation of fifth as well as third principle. Without fighting a war, they were able to blame India completely, as well as they deceived us. Now, I'll give you an explanation of the implementation of next principle, which says avoid what is strong and strike at what is weak. Let's jump to the next story. Back in August 1959, first PLA crossed McMahon Line in the east and claimed that India violated the Shimla Treaty, which was signed in 1914. Okay. On the other side, there was a bloody clash in October 1959 at Konka Pass in Aksai Chin, in which 9 Indian frontier policemen were killed. Recognizing that this is not a war, Indian Army assumed the responsibility for the border and pulled back the patrol from the dispute area. On 2nd October 1959, Nikita, there was a Soviet politician from Cold War era, defended Nehru in a meeting with Mao. Since USSR was siding Nehru as well as there was a United States influence in the region, this gave China a belief that it was surrounded by the enemy forces. So by October 16, 1959, General Lee reported on Indian expansionism on Thangla Ridge. On October 18, 1959, just in 2 days, the Chinese government approved the PLA's plan of a self-defensive counterattack against India because it was acting in Tibet. Mao decided against further escalation because he feared that India would retaliate by permitting the US to station into the surveillance aircraft in their territory. This would have allowed CIA to photograph China's nuclear test sites at Xinjiang. A few days later of Konka Pass incident, Chinese Prime Minister, very witty, Zhao Enlai, he proposed that each side will withdraw 20 kilometers from the line of actual control. He defined that line as so-called McMahon line in the east and the line up which each side exercise actual control in the west. This is how they were able to use the fourth principle to create the line of actual control. Let's jump back to the present. China has always tried to change the narrative of the story by lying to the world and being a totalitarian dictatorship under PRC. While they were backstabbing Jawaharlal Nehru in 50s, they got their agenda cleared by occupying Aksai Chin. If India won't learn from the past mistakes, history will repeat itself. In 2020, to hide their narrative of Hong Kong and coronavirus and bunch of other shady stuff they have been hiding under the carpet, they need a backup story. On one side, Xi shook hands with our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi in BRICS Summit in 2016, and on the other side, they were forming a string of pearl around India slowly and gradually. On one side, in 2018, they agreed to coordinate a development program in Afghanistan in the areas of health, education, and food and security. On the other side, they were orchestrating a Doklam standoff in 2017. This is where the final principle of Sun Tzu comes into the picture, which states, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not to fear the results of 100 battles. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, India's first Minister of Law and Justice, was foresighted politician and saw this coming long time ago. He already warned us in 1954 in a Rajya Sabha speech, and I quote, by allowing the Chinese to take possession of Lhasa, the Prime Minister has practically helped them bring their border down the Indian borders. Aggression might well be committed by the people who are always in the habit of committing aggression. This is it, guys. If you like my video, please give me a thumbs up. If you like to hear more stories, subscribe me. Also, I'm on Patreon. You can support me by going to the link in the description. Thank you and Jai Hind.